We are back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
How was your conversation? Okay.
It's good and tough.
Can you share with us what you talked about? Somebody.
Okay.
Yes. Good job.
In our breaking room, we talked about boundaries. So boundaries is some boundaries is invisible, but some boundaries is visible. So we share the examples of visible and invisible boundaries. The last part of our discussion, we talk about men and women.
Oh, gender.
Gender, yes. And kind of discrimination of gender, especially about job opportunities. So actually, I'm man. I don't feel a discrimination so much, especially in my company. But some women feels this discrimination about it, something like that. And then Rosanna show us a great picture that express the boundaries. Yes.
Oh. Okay, just a minute. Rosanna. Well, the best way is to, Rosanna, can you say something?
Yeah.
So that,
Sure.
okay.
And
So,
in speaker view, yes, we see your illustration.
Yeah,
okay.
so if Rosanna says something.
So what we talked about was we need to have a common understanding of what we mean when we say boundaries. We talked about using your description. Some boundaries are visible and some are invisible. And to us, some boundaries are arbitrary and some are not. So that's why I drew this line here and dotted line here. And what we want to do is to be able to bridge or cross these boundaries either intentionally or invisibly, so to speak. So when we talk about boundaries, we said there are some boundaries that are visible, such as physical boundaries, like a hierarchy in an organization. You have an org chart, everybody knows who to report to. Those are visible boundaries. Professional differences, what you do in your work, what I do in my work, those are visible boundaries. The harder part of it is the invisible ones that we cannot touch and feel or see. These are things like unconscious bias, cultural differences, or equality. So these are things that unless you have experienced it or have experiences in those, it's very difficult to cross those boundaries or build bridges on those unless I have experienced it or intentionally try to cross it, right? So one of the examples near the end of our conversation, as Gucho-san said, is that we use the example of equality, where such as salary differences. You can collect data of salary of females, males in the same position, different position. Those are data that you can see and analyze. Those are visible boundaries. Whereas the emotional reaction of the differences in the salary by females may be very different than the emotional reaction of the males. And those are invisible boundaries that are much, much harder to cross, especially when emotions are involved. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yes, it's good. Could you show your picture again? The upper side is what you have two arrows, like upper one and the bottom.
I didn't have any specific meaning to these two arrows. It just means that you cross from one side to the other intentionally. And sometimes you may build those bridges either intentionally or unintentionally. And so, for example, if I have experienced something such as coming to Japan and I'm looking forward to that, I'm not 100% familiar with your culture. But if there were, let's say, volunteers that are Japanese ambassadors who would help foreigners to experience some of your Japanese culture, those are boundaries that you can bridge, right? So even though it's invisible and not really tangible, but it's experiential and it's doable.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting. At the first virtual cafe, there was a discussion like this. I mean, some people said that boundaries are within ourselves instead of outside. Inside. The boundaries inside.
Oh, I
So
like that.
Yeah, it's something to do with unconscious bias or something like that. Okay, very good. Who else? Is there anybody who want to share with us some concept or the ideas? Oh, okay, Tal, could you?
Yeah. Yes. In our conversation, I still have ongoing, not finished discussion. They have 2 points. One thing I raised about the professional differences from the how to connect the visual recorder with the visual facilitator. Yeah, and because in my opinion they have the two sides, left and the right.
Left and right.
Does that mean in terms of the visual recorders, when you are in the room, that and we have to listen quiet and try to capture the crucial information, while the facilitator, they have to communicate with the participants. And from those two skill set, it's also important. And if we can develop the both skill set together, it will be much more effective in terms of working and whatever to do anything.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tal. Yeah, it's very good point. I think that there are, seemingly there are two. It seems to me that there are two separate expertise, professional expertise. One is facilitation, one is graphic recorder, and so there are some, boundaries between these two professional areas. But now we are trying to integrate. That's one of the purpose or the aim of the IF conference, the upcoming conference this time. And I understand that Tal is a graphic recorder and also the facilitator. So it's a good point, I think. Is there anybody who can comment on this? I mean, graphic versus facilitation. Actually, starting 3-4 years ago, many graphic facilitators or graphic recorders are joining IAF conferences. And now we are seeing many graphics at the conference. But there still are some issues. How to integrate, how to merge the two practices. Okay.
Is it, Katris? I have a question for you. I heard here two similar words, but are they graphic facilitation and graphic recording? Are they the same or different?
No, different. Well, in my understanding, it's different. Graphic recording is just recorder, graphic recorder, recording the content. graphic facilitation is a facilitation using graphics. Is it right, Tal?
Maybe Rosanna have
Rosanna, yeah, okay.
explanation.
Yeah, I this is something that has been bugging me for a long, long time. I think the word graphic facilitators have been used in the world of graphic recorders for a long time. And there are many graphic recorders who call themselves graphic facilitators when they don't do facilitation as we define it in the IAF.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, so for example, there are graphic recorders whose job was to listen and capture what's going on in the room graphically. To me, that's graphic recording. But there are facilitators like ourselves who also use graphic to support their work. To me, that's graphic facilitation. To me, there are two different things. The unfortunate thing is that the term graphic facilitators are used very widely around the world when they mean graphic recording. And there has been no consensus in the graphic community to come up with or agree to one name that would reflect accurately what they do. So I know a lot of graphic recorders who call themselves graphic facilitators, but they have no role, no active role in the design or the facilitation in the room, which confuse a lot of our own clients and their own community. Does that help, Yoshiko? Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting point. I think we can talk about it for a long time, but it's a very succinct summary of what it is, status quo. Thank you, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So with that, shall we go on to the second round of the World Cafe conversation? Just a minute.
Could you show the second question?
Second question is, what do you think would happen if those boundaries are breached? What do you think would happen if those boundaries are breached? So with this question, again, Saito-san, can you make different group, different breakout session groups?
Right. Some people have to leave now.
Yeah, sorry. I have to leave. I have students member have meetings from 11, so unfortunately we have to leave from now.
Okay. Good. So
thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much for holding this.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.